As the year goes on, I get closer and closer.
So to learn new skills and to build new acumen.
We can always touch. It's not.
When you get that, then you get a lot more excited about being around children.
Normal, in a sense, with all of the changes, of course.
Or how you can transform your own business.
On developing the whole child, socially, emotionally.
Traditional route of teaching young boys
how to set boundaries, because this little victim here needs to know how to.
Doing very well, so they use that term.
Sometimes expanded them to go up to 40 minutes.
All of those things in education, of course, those things are important.
Student is going to our heads and our lungs.
The affirmations in the mirror for about 2 minutes.
What did you do in order to get yourself going?
This is amazing.
It happens, what seems to happen quite a bit in our school.
For the families to come, and they
is that really for the child, or is it for us, for the parent?
And doing new things for our brain.
Who's orchestrating everything in this universe?
Which parts of the brain are used?
Based on that map that we have.
See you with your smiling face.
Atul, thank you very much for allowing me to join you. Namaste to you, my friends.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Early Childhood Global Spotlight show for today. My name is Preeti, and I am a proud member and a co-founder for this community. Also a founder of a preschool chain by the name of WOWkids in India, which has more than 150 centers spread across 20 states here in India. Before we get started, if this is the first time you have joined the Spotlight show, let me tell you that we do these Spotlight shows every Sunday at 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time and 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The purpose and intent of these shows is to simply inspire all early childhood educators, parents, everybody who's passionate about children and learning more about early childhood community. In case, also while the show is on, in case you have any questions, from the guests that we have, or Marianne or me, please feel free to leave a comment, and we would be very happy to take it up. So today, allow me to introduce the guest for today. We have Prerna Richards with us, and very own Marianne is there. So let me first start with Prerna's introduction. Hi, Prerna.
Hi.
Hi. So I'll just give a quick introduction, and then we look forward to listen to a lot of things from you about today's topic. Prerna is a keynote international coach and consultant. She has worked in early childhood education for 35 years. Majority of her experience is in NAEYC accredited programs. She is a registered master level trainer with the Texas Early Childhood Professional Development System. Prerna started her own consulting business, Together We Grow. So the name of her company is Together We Grow, providing professional development coaching and consulting for educators and individual families. She believes every child is born capable and intelligent and deserves the best start in life. We couldn't agree more with you, Prerna, on this. This starts with teachers being trained in the latest research on child growth and development. Her educational philosophy is grounded in a play-based approach, along with a strong social emotional foundation. She is the winner of Susan Hargrave Trainer of the Year Award from TXAEYC in 2020. Prerna has received 12-hour certification from the University of SFL in DE&I. It gives me immense pleasure once again to welcome to the Spotlight Show, Prerna.
Thank you, Preeti. Thank you. Hi, Mare.
Hello. I love
and yes,
being together.
I'm sorry, but we can't start till I actually once again, welcome Mare also, founder of Music with Marianne. Everybody knows it, and she's the moderator for this group. And you can say the backbone of this group. So welcome, Marianne,
Thank you.
let us begin the Spotlight Show with Prerna Richards today.
Okay. So thank you, Preeti, for being with us today. It's good to see your face. First time in 2022, I guess. And Prerna, I am looking forward to working together with you in person in South Carolina and USA when we do get to speak about that 12-hour course that we were trained in for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we spoke about that on the Spotlight a couple of months back. It seems so long ago. Today, we're talking about something that you are so good at so many things, but this is one of your biggest passions, I think, is the understanding the out of sync child. So let's begin by giving everyone a better understanding of what is an out of sync child. And at what age do you notice this? Can this be something that would be noticed early, like in infancy? So Prerna, take it away, girl.
All right. So thank you for saying that. And, Preeti, when you gave my introduction, you said I do coaching for behaviors. Well, recently what I've found is a lot of the calls that I'm getting to go in the classrooms and support the children and the teachers, and also from the parents, what I'm getting is behaviors that are mystifying the adults. And the out of sync child, simply put, is a child whose responses and behaviors don't align with expected response or behaviors. They do something that everybody's like around them, like, huh, what's that? Where's this coming from? What's going on in your brain? So for example, a child who walks around with their ears covered and everybody else feels like, that's not very loud. What is going on here? But they're reacting to something. Or a child, right now we are here in winter months, who refuses to put the jacket on and put the gloves on, and it's freezing outside. So their responses are not aligning with the expected response, and they're out of sync because they're not doing the norm. They're not doing what is expected for what's happening around them. And the reason for this is something called SPD, sensory processing disorder. And sensory processing disorder is like autism. It's on a spectrum. And because it's on a spectrum, it has a range. And because it has a range, some of it can be considered as normal, childhood responses for sensory aversion. But what we're talking about today is different. So if a child has SPD or if a child has sensory processing disorder, it's extreme. There's something else going on neurologically. So anybody listening, I want to make it very clear. I'm not talking about just the off child or the off day or the off response. There's something that happens quite consistently to make that child stand out in their responses. So that's really at the heart of it, what puts them out of sync. And yes, you asked a question about infancy, Mare. Yes, it can be detected really early. For example, even when children, like in infancy, the way it shows up is they're very fussy. They're a difficult baby. And we've all met difficult babies and we've all had difficult days, but this is different. This child is just really fussy, is uncomfortable, something is bothering them, they don't know what to do with it. And it shows up in just life on a regular basis for these babies, even if they have colic. So colic is a very common infancy problem, right? It's a digestive issue thing. But if they're having SPD, then it prolongs it. And if somebody is having colic for a very long time, I would definitely encourage you to talk to your pediatrician to get them tested for SPD, because that may be the underlying cause of it. But I'm really excited that we're talking about this because, like I said, so many of the recent calls have been, they call me in because behaviors are extreme, but at the heart of it, it's SPD. It's not just challenging behaviors, what we used to see before. Something is shifting.
And just to clarify for everyone, SPD, sensory processing disorder.
And it's also integration. So sensory processing, so they make sense of it. So they're processing the information around them. Basically, their responses are not aligning with the environment around them. So their senses are trying to process. Yeah. The
Integration as well.
Mm-hmm. So they're not processing what's around them. So their appropriate senses can respond, and they're not able to integrate it in their bodies. So there's two parts to it. One making sense of it, and one integrating it so you can give the right response with your right senses.
Very, very good. Now, before we move on, just to stick with this for a moment, Preeti and I were having a discussion the other day with someone else. And one of the things with this, you saying you're getting a lot of phone calls. So I'm curious, one of the things that came up is that with COVID and the isolation and the quarantining, they're finding that a lot of infants are developing issues that they hadn't seen before. They're getting a lot more developmental delays and things. And, you know, we opined that maybe that's because the parents aren't getting out, they're not seeing other babies, they're not seeing modeling, parents are busy juggling work online plus trying to pay attention to an infant. So we are seeing more things cropping up with babies younger and younger. So are some of your calls coming from parents with infants now too? Well, I'm thinking normally you would get like the 3 to 5 year olds as getting them ready for school. Now, are you also getting for the infant toddlers?
Yeah, I think this pandemic has definitely shifted the earlier years, the focus on the earlier years, because traditionally, you know, these children would have either had a nanny at home or a babysitter at home, or they might have had a parent at home or a grandparent, or they may have been part of a preschool program from infancy on. And other than the parents just being the only person who sees the child, I think there's value in somebody else noticing your children, because, you know, you get used to your child, you get used to their behaviors. You don't think that it's odd. You don't notice the off things. But if somebody else notices, and I think that's stopped now. So if somebody else notices that, you know, there is a problem or an issue, then they can be a red flag. But if nobody other than the parents is interacting, then it's a little bit hard, right?
Absolutely,
Yes.
Prerna. I think what you...
Hang on
Sure.
1 second.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very valid question, Marian, because you know, that is something I believe it's the numbers are increasing. So yeah, so Prerna, what I was saying is, you know, absolutely what you just mentioned is that because the social interaction where children were able to get out, even if it's a mother toddler program or playing in a park with other children, so that opportunity has been totally you know, taken away by this you know, staying at home under COVID-19. So I believe the opportunity where actually others could, you know, even just take the parents' attention, that there is something, you know, which is different and might need your attention, even that opportunity, you know, has gone. So yeah, absolutely. I think that
Very
has really
sad.
impacted.
A lot of times children learn things because they see another child doing it, and it makes them want to try it. And so that's been taken away big time with them not being able to have that type of play. So Prerna, you hit on this a little bit, but let's make sure that everyone is really understanding this before we move on. The different types of sensory needs and why they have to start in infancy. So what are the things we need to make sure we are giving the child in the way of sensory needs?
So I think understanding that the earlier the better, right? So the earlier years, if you can detect something, if you can notice something, and if you can help children, give them the support and the resources, there are more chances that they can thrive, right? So earlier is better. And this is the same with SPD, is the same. The earlier we detect something, the earlier we can give them the support. So things to look out for. If you have infants and toddlers and preschoolers at home, things to look out for. Are the children extremely fussy? Are they clumsy? Like if their muscle tone is weak, are they clumsy by nature? Are they avoiding things like swaddling? Swaddling typically helps infants to relax and soothe and feel comforted, but these children are fighting it. They just feel confined and they don't want to be swaddled. They avoid textures in food. They don't want the lumpy potatoes touching something else. They want bland food. And again, I want to emphasize, this is not the normal avoidance that children do. This is extreme. There's a pattern here. It keeps bubbling up. It keeps showing up in the same sensory space. So avoiding messy play. They don't want to get their hands dirty. They don't want to touch things that have slimy textures. So, there's definitely something going on. There are 6 basic types of sensory disorders or sensory processing problems that you can break it down into. The first one being auditory. So the listening, the sound, the noise, these children are extremely sensitive to loud noises, or they can't stand loud noises, or they speak in a very booming voice. And everybody keeps telling them around them, why are you angry? Why are you yelling? And they're not. They're just using a very loud voice, which they can't quite regulate because of something happening. The other one is visual. These children get overstimulated or understimulated. They can't stand light, too bright lights, too dim lights. Having classrooms or homes that have cluttered, the walls are packed, that could be overstimulating the children. So, any of these senses that they're trying to make sense of the world around them, but they're telling from their actions that something is bothering me. I can't process what I'm taking in. The smell is another one, right? So these children that are on extreme spectrums either don't react to smells, or they can't stand the slightest smell. Or if there's a pungent smell, there's no reaction. They're just not even noticing it. Or touch. These children avoid being touched. They avoid being picked. They avoid picking up objects that they're not familiar with. So it could be people or objects they're avoiding, or they're picking up things that are very sharp and they're not noticing that it hurt them, and they're bleeding and they didn't notice it. So these are extreme examples that I'm giving, but if anybody listening can relate to something that they've noticed in their child, don't ignore this. This is a sign that the child is trying to make sense. So help them to get identified. Another one is vestibular, the sense of balance. Some children feel very floppy and clumsy, and they can't seem to have strength in their arms and legs to pull themselves up and to crawl and to, do the normal developmental milestone things that happen in early childhood. Which is the last one, spatial. They bump into other people's space, personal space. They don't get the concept of my bubble, your bubble. They're always sitting right next to somebody and unaware that they're in their space, or they bump into people. So all of our senses, right? These are our senses that we process the world around us. We make sense of the world around us, and we try to fit in. We try to give our responses based on what information I'm gathering with my environment. But when there's this issue happening, they're unable to process it as smoothly as we would expect them to. And I think the other part of this is that sometimes it's just one sense, sometimes it's multiple senses, and sometimes by age they outgrow it, and other times they don't. And this is why I think starting earlier is better. The earlier we can give them a help. I don't know if you guys have found this, but quite often I have found parents of early childhood children, births to maybe 5, they don't want their kids diagnosed so that there'll be a label, and then I don't want my child to be labeled.
Right.
So I would urge everybody, don't focus on the label, focus on giving your child the help. You're giving them the best environment to thrive. This is not a shame game. This is a support game.
Absolutely. So I think I would add on to that, Prerna. You're absolutely right. And especially what you just mentioned is, especially when the parent doesn't have the awareness that what are the milestones that I should be looking forward to. For example, how much the child should move hands and feet by the age the child is 6 months old to a year. Okay. So when I'm not aware that what milestone should look forward to, I do not actually, nothing raises an alarm in case something is not growing the way it should grow, right? That is one. So I believe awareness is very important, so that parents know, all right, so this is by 3 months, 6 months. Obviously it would vary from child to child, across, absolutely. But I believe awareness definitely can help a lot. And what you mentioned, I could actually, it just reminded me of a couple of children that I met over the last 7-8 years, where parents actually somewhere knew that something is not right, but they waited. And because as a parent, I don't want to go into that territory where I want to say that, okay, there's something is not normal, all right, but and I want to keep avoiding it. I want to give all the necessary interventions in terms of what is normal, just send to the school. If the child is unable to do something, it's okay, the teacher can scold, or I can scold, but it's going to be fine as the child grows. But eventually what happens is the child gets confused that I don't know why they are unable to understand, right? So I've had parents where it's been like now 3 years, 4 years, and 5 years is when it was so evident that they had to go for to the professional doctors and to understand and get it diagnosed, that is it autism spectrum, or as you said, SPD or ADHD. So yes, you're absolutely right. I couldn't agree more that there is nothing wrong in it. Every child is gifted. Every child has their own way of how they're going to grow, when are they going to learn. But the early you give that support, that love, and that attention they need, I think everything will absolutely fall in place.
So you raised a couple of points, like people are not aware. I would recommend them to go to a website. And here in America, we have CDC, and they have CDC milestones of development. Download that for your child. Look at the months, and they break it down by 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, and so on and so forth. Find the resources, download them, and educate yourself, right? So if early childhood is not the space that you went to college for, there are tons of resources. But if you have children in your life, please educate yourself with what is expected development. What should I be looking for? What are the milestones that I should be tracking? How do I know that they're on track? The other part is that quite often when children are behaving a certain way, whether it's because of challenging behaviors or whether it's because of sensory processing responses, sometimes people feel insecure. Sometimes parents feel insecure that it's an extension of me as a failure as a parent. I just want to reassure parents and educators, this is not an extension of you. They're an independent human being. They're struggling with something. This doesn't make you less than. This doesn't make you a better or worse parent just because you have a child with behavioral issues. The child is, behavior is a form of communication. So whether it's coming from a sensory disorder or whether it's coming from emotional needs not met, it's a form of communication that they don't have the vocabulary to articulate and say, look, this is what's happening in my brain. This is what's happening in my body. Help me.
Right.
So we need adults to just relax and just, help yourself and go to your pediatrician, download the milestones. And it's not a cookie cutter approach. So just because they say at 6 months they should be crawling and yours is not a sign that there's a problem. There's a range, right? So there's 5 domains: cognitive, which is the learning, there's fine motor, these finger muscles, the gross motor, the large muscles, the language, the social emotional. All these domains, children will develop in ebb and flow, and they will peak in some, they'll recess in some. But when it comes to sensory processing, it impacts everything else that's happening because we take in the world through our senses.
Please read what Atul wrote, Prerna.
Oh, I don't have to
Can you see it? I can read it to you if you like.
I got it now. Mostly delays in development. Yeah, I mean, activities too, because we're not supporting them with the right encouragement and the right resources to help them master those skills. I'll give you an example. I was in a program just last week, and in the infant classroom, the little boy, he was about 8 months old, and he wasn't standing up. And he avoided standing up. He didn't want to be in the little chair that makes you sit and they crawl, they use their legs and they move around. He avoided that. He wanted to be on his back, or he wanted to be held and picked up. And what I noticed was that his leg muscles were very stiff. So he wasn't wanting to bend from his knees. It was actually hurting him. So he avoided it, because who would want to get pain, right? So he avoided it. And I mentioned to the teacher, I said, I'm noticing that his legs are very stiff. The muscles are very stiff. And she says, I know, I've noticed it. I've tried to talk to mom, and mom just says, it's fine. He's only 8 months old. We shouldn't stress about him. And, I was telling her, I said, maybe we could get ECI in. In America, we have an agency called Early Childhood Intervention. They provide free services from birth to 3 years. They come and do an assessment. They come and provide physical therapy. They come and provide activities. They come and it's all done through play. But, this little boy needs help with his leg muscles. So even holding up, what I was telling her, I said, okay, let's see if mom will do a referral. But if not, just put your hands in front of his feet and see if you can do this cycling movement with him, just to get the blood flowing, right? So there are so many things we can do to make it fun and game and play to help children with activities and with all the 5 domains that I just mentioned, so that we're giving them strength in here, we're ripping papers, we're using this, we're pushing this, giving it a natural way for that to develop. And that's not happening right now.
So of course, I'm going to add the music part to this, because you have all this wonderful information. And then I always listen to people like you talk, and I say, all right, how can I give them a song to make it easier? Because sometimes for parents, teachers too, when you have a little song, it makes it easier. And I have quite a few CD out just for infants, right? An infant toddler curriculum that I did for Kaplan. But one of the things, and parents will go, well, why did you write that? Well, exactly for what you just said. I have a song. I have it up on YouTube if people want to look and see how what Prerna is talking about is done. And you just look at the baby's on its back, and you are bending and unbending the baby's legs. And you're singing, pump, 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 pump your legs. First one leg and then the other. And you're just exercising that baby's legs, because those little things that you mentioned, Prerna, are so intensely powerful. And people do not always grasp that. They're thinking that it can't just be as simple as looking in a baby's face and going, who's the baby that I love? You are. That connection, and I'll be speaking on this one at Sika, Prerna, but also going back to the sensory needs and noticing them, and parents being afraid of getting their child labeled. All these little sensory issues that Prerna gave, and I encourage each and every one of you to get a copy of that list that she had. Maybe Prerna will put it up in the feed for you. The 6 ways, the ways that you need to look at, all the senses as well as the vestibular, and spatial awareness. Sometimes it can be a simple fix that could have grown into something so much more, troubling. I had a little boy at 4 years old that he was getting in trouble all the time. Prerna, that must break your heart, like 4-year-olds in trouble all the time. And they're going, oh, this one's going to be fun once he gets in school. Instead of what is troubling this child? Mm-hmm. So the mother was so used to all that. At 4 years old, he doesn't pay attention in PE. Well, PE for a 4-year-old? What are you talking about? Doesn't like to sit still when we're doing art projects. Well, he's 4. But, so in music class, I noticed whenever I would sing with him, he'd go like this. And I'd be thinking, come on, dude, my voice isn't that bad. Just this and the rocking. And I noticed when it would happen. And I said to the mom, she goes, "Oh God, is he bad in music too?" I said, "Well, I never like to say a child is bad, first of all, but he's not being bad. He's reacting to something. And I really wish you would just ask your pediatrician. It seems that he wants to always cover his right ear, and he rocks and he pushes." The mom went to the pediatrician. He had a small cyst or tumor developing right near his ear.
Oh my goodness. Good thing you told the mom. Good thing.
And the mom went and got the help, and the kid was fine. And guess what about his behavior? What happened to his behavior, Prerna?
Improved because his need was met. Yeah.
Right.
You know,
So I'm going to have you speak about that now. What are some of the practical ways to meet those sensory needs?
Yeah. So I think I want to circle back with the activities that Atul was asking about. So the sensory activities, what I want to really emphasize to everybody is the best way to activate the brain. And when you have 3 or more senses, so if you're providing an activity for children, the research says if that activity engages 3 or more senses, so I can touch something, I can see something, I can hear something, or I can smell something, right? That's 3 and more. Right. I'm going to wake up my brain in different parts, and I'm going to process this information in a more productive way. It's going to activate my brain. So when you're planning activities for children, a simple example would be if they're not used to sensory play, if they're not used to messy play, take a bucket or take a small bowl and put whatever you have at home, right? So we're not running around shopping that much. We're at home right now, or you're in your classroom right now. If you have, based on the age, if you have flour or cornmeal or rice, whatever you have, put a little bit of lavender oil in it or rose oil in it, so now I can smell it. And then I just add some scoopings and cups and measuring spoons in there. And as I pour, as the baby's pouring, you can hear, you can touch, you can see, you can smell. The more we can do simple activities with children that have 3 or more senses, we will help them to feel confident and get that processing happening in a faster way, right? The other way of looking at sensory processing behaviors, I think the biggest misconception about this is that they're just acting out, that they're being disobedient. I've already told them, don't do that. And so I want to tell you maybe a story about a little boy, Zach, that I just visited last week. And he's 3 years old. And I was in his classroom because the director was trying to support the teacher. And she invited me, said, "We've tried everything for Zach. Nothing is working. Can you please come and observe?" But this is what I noticed with Zach. He's sucking his thumb. He's rubbing his ear. And he needs the stimulation of this touch. So he touches everything. He needs intensity. So even when he goes to the bathroom, he pulls the paper towel like jerking manner because he needs this intense touch feeling, like he needs to be woken up with it. And what I noticed the teacher was doing was, she was very sweet, lovely lady, really sweet, caring teacher. But she was in a very reactive brain. So every time Zach would suck and every time he would touch something, she'd be like, take your thumb out, take your thumb out, take your thumb out. And when we were doing coaching at the end of the day, I said to her, I noticed that you were telling Zach to keep taking his thumb out. Can you tell me more about that? And she said, well, isn't that what I'm supposed to do? He's spreading germs. Like, isn't that what I'm supposed to do? And I said, yes, but did you stop to think that he's trying to self-regulate? He's trying to self-soothe. He wasn't doing any of this to bother any of the children. He was just trying to maintain his own sensory needs. And it's a need. So how do we act when we get hungry and angry at the same time? Hangry comes up. Yeah. We've all felt the angry emotion. I know I have. I am a different person when I'm hangry. But he is doing the best he can. And I think this is the biggest misconception about behaviors and children. They're not doing it to trouble us. They're not doing it to give us a hard time. They're having a hard time. They're having a hard time and they don't know what to do. There's all these stress hormones in the body. And so this little guy, he had several sensory issues going on. The touch was happening. Every now and then he would just scream and answer. When we ran outside, he just ran. He needed speed. He wanted to bang. He needed overstimulation. So there's 3 types. three types of behaviors that show up. One is, maybe three levels is a better way of framing this. So between the 6 senses, there's 3 levels that show up. Avoidance. These children avoid touching objects or people, or avoid the sound, or they avoid it because it gives them too much stimulation. So there's either avoidance. I'll give you an example of a school that I'm coaching in Nebraska. And it's very cold in Nebraska right now. And this little boy, he's 4 years old, he fights, like full on fight, to put the jacket on, to put the gloves on, and he runs around. He's absolutely dysregulated, and it becomes a battle. He's avoiding it because he goes into fight or flight. He's getting so scared that he just avoids it. So the teacher was talking to me and she said, "What is that about?" And I said, "When he's calm, ask him." So I've noticed that every single time we try to go outside, you have this big reaction. You get really upset. You get really mad. What are you feeling in your body when you're doing that? And he will tell you in his own words. I promise you, he will tell you. And she didn't believe me. But the next time we met, she said, "I can't believe he told me." I said, "What did he say?" And he says, "I can't breathe. It feels tight." Okay, so he's not running around to avoid the jacket. He is doing it because he knows what this brings on in him. He's panicking, right? So the first one is avoidance. The second one is no reaction at all. These are the children that they can touch very pokey things, they can hurt themselves, they can bang themselves, they can fall down, they can bleed, and there's no reaction. It could be a loud booming noise and everybody is doing this and they're just like, huh, what? So there's either avoidance or no reaction, and the third one is craving. And what I was explaining to you about Zach, he was craving that sensation. He wants to be squeezed tight. He wants to be just swaddled. He needs that extra pressure. So with any of those 6 senses, they're either craving it or they're avoiding it or there's no reaction to it, right? So if your child is doing something at home, in the classroom, my best advice would be that you just put on your magical sensory glasses. And then you ask yourself.
Can I get them from you?
Yes, they're coming in the mail right now.
No, bring them to me in
magical sensory glasses. I actually have my granddaughter right now visiting, and she walks around with empty glass frames, and she puts them on, and this is where I got the idea of the magical glasses. She puts them on, and she's just like, now I can see better. So put your magic. I'm going to bring them. Actually, I should have had them given to me. So ask yourself these 3 questions. Put on.
That's a great insight.
Yeah. So once you put on your magical sensory glasses, ask yourself this question: what sensations does the child avoid? Right? Slow down and start observing and just notice, what sensations is the child avoiding? Is the t-shirt tag bothering them? Is the lumpy mashed potatoes bothering them? Or is the sirens bothering them? Like, what sensation is he or she avoiding? And then as a result, to help them, reduce that sensory overload if possible, right? Once you can notice that this is a trigger for your child, see if you can remove that. And sometimes when I say that to people, they said, but are we going to be raising children who can't cope with anything? Are we giving in to them too much? Are we making them sissies? And I said, but how would you feel if you had a need? This is a need. Wouldn't you feel happier? Wouldn't you thrive? Wouldn't you be more successful if your need was met?
Yeah.
Like, it's a need. It's not because they're doing it to trouble us. It's a need. The second one is, what sensations does my child continuously seek? So the first one is, what are they avoiding? But what is the next one they constantly want? So with Zach's example, he needed the sucking. He needed the stimulation. He needed to touch something, right? So with him, what I recommended for his teacher was make a tactile basket for him. Fill some balloons with rice, fill some balloons with beans, fill some balloons with flour, so the textures feel different. And they had actually given, the teachers were onto it, they had given him a chewy thingy. But she said he doesn't like it. I said, I know, because it doesn't taste the same as his skin, right? I mean, it's just not the same. The hard plastic thing doesn't quite have the same sensation as sucking on a skin. And so she was like, well, do you think I should just let him be? And will he be spreading germs? Well, newsflash, preschool classrooms, toddler classrooms, infant classrooms are germ fest. Hello. I mean, how much are you going to protect? But he's not bothering anybody else. He is just trying to take care of his needs. And I think part of the stress was coming because the adult was putting so much pressure on herself. Constantly her attention was, Zach, take them out of your mouth. Zach, don't touch that. Zach, like, just relax. She's bound up and the baby's bound up, and it's just not worth it. And I think when I said that to her, her stress came down and she said, okay, so I could just let him be. Yes, please, just let him be.
It's so simple.
He might outgrow it. And, she was surprised when I told her, I said, not one thing that I saw, because I was in her classroom for 3 hours. And I said, not one thing is he doing it to agitate you. Not one thing is he doing to get other people into trouble. He is doing the best he can to manage himself. Like his whole thing is to just manage all these emotions and stress hormones that are generating in him, right? And the last one, so the first one is, what do they avoid? The next one is, what do they crave a lot? And the last one is, what sensations calm your child? Is it rocking? Is it swinging? Is it knocking things over? That was the other thing that Zach was doing. He would knock things like blocks. He would build and knock them, because with him, everything needed to be intense. He was seeking intense noise, intense touch, intense. He just needed, because he was not getting it enough. He needed to see it, hear it. So she said, what do I do about that? I said, well, let him, give him a space where he could build and knock as much as he wants. Like, just what is the harm in that, right? So, what calms them, notice that, and give them that. Give them what they need so they can thrive. This is the same with infants and toddlers. Toddlers by nature don't really recognize my space and your space. They're bumping into everybody's space because they haven't mastered this yet. But if you start pointing it out, like, okay, if you want to stomp and you want to give them some hammers and give them some cushions, even putting a cross on the floor. Like, I have an 18-month-old grandson running around right now, and he likes to stomp. And so we just put X's on the floor, and he just was so happy just stomping.
so
I believe, sorry, Marian, you were saying something?
No, go ahead.
So, what just, the moment you said, so toddlers and infants, obviously they are just anybody who is like just starting talk, they still can't express, clearly because they're learning. So I believe talking to them, nowadays, I believe this is what I have been experiencing. And especially I can't stop mentioning the last 1.5 years when parents are also working from home. So I believe the communication part has taken a toll. So, obviously babies are being born, every minute as we speak. So, and they're growing. It's been 2 years now. So the communication part, how much am I talking to my child? Because unless I don't make a conscious effort to speak to my child, talk to them a lot, I might miss a lot of alarms, in case, especially when we are talking about today's topic. So I might miss it because I hardly talk to my child. Maybe the child is sleeping, and I missed it because I'm not talking to him.
Yeah, I think you raise a very good point. I think some people have this miscommunication that babies, right from the time they're born, till the time they have their own words, that they don't understand anything that you say to them. So I don't need to tell you anything because you're not understanding. That is the biggest misconception. Children come into this world wired for language. They come into this world ready to listen, ready to learn, and ready to speak. And language, by the way, is the first wiring that happens in the womb. And so we are programmed to come into this world understanding. I will tell you, this 18-month-old grandson of mine, he understands everything. It is absolutely fascinating to me that he understands so much. So he's got the receptive language. He hasn't got the expressive language. And to your point, we have got to speak to them. And, when you notice something, ask them, And I promise you, they will explain to you in their own words what they're feeling. When we start treating children as capable and intelligent, they rise to it. But if we don't talk to them and we look down at them that, oh, I'm just doing this, they're picking it up, whether you say it or not. They're picking it all up. The messages are being picked up that, oh, you don't think I'm capable and intelligent, then I must not be. Oh, you don't think I can understand, then I must not be. Either way, it's coming true. Either way.
Right. And when we speak to them, it helps them to want to talk some more. I have a, I think, 14-month-old little boy, maybe a little bit older than that, in my class. And every time when class starts, I have a bag that I open that there are puppets inside. And he walks around talking constantly, and the mother just interacts with him. Neither one of us know what he's saying, but I've been modeling for the mother now, because he'll come over to my bag and he'll go, and I go, yes, I'm going to open it now. And he goes, and I go, yeah. And then we take the puppets out. And the mother goes, that's probably what he's saying. I go, exactly. Just pretend that is what he's saying and go with it,
But quite often it makes sense, Mayor, don't you think? I mean, what is
exactly? I pick up the bubbles and he goes, hey, I go, yes, I'm going to blow bubbles. And he goes, yes. So you just follow their lead. Sometimes they make, like you can't figure it out. And I'll just look at them and smile, go, good point. Let me think about that. I never ignore it. I always give it some kind of recognition. A last thing before we close up, because we're going long, but Prerna, first of all, I'm loving what you are presenting today. Absolutely. I've learned a couple of things myself, very, very succinct and practical. And here's something, like Dr. Sally Goldberg was talking about this the other day. We have been quarantined. So first of all, a point about that. Yeah, there's a lot of babies born. That's what happens in quarantine. So anyway, and I really want to discourage people from a term that I'm hearing, which is, this is my COVID baby. A lot of parents are using that term. If you are, please stop. Would you want to be known as an adult? Oh, were you a COVID baby? So let's put a stop to that now.
The example I was giving you, Mayor, for my 18-month, he was born during COVID. But I would never call him that. Never.
Right. These children are coming into music with Mayor classes, and they're walking around like, wow, who is this other person that's my size? And they're actually standing in front of each other and just staring, reaching out and like, and so the whole sensory thing there with being around other children, touching other children, hearing other children, all of that. So parents then get hung up on what can I buy to help stimulate them? You really don't need to buy much. You don't, a handkerchief and play peekaboo, or a long scarf for them to twirl around. And I'm sure, Prerna, I can go on with a lot of ideas I have because I do that course on manipulatives, but I'd like you to talk to them about that. You don't need to get toys. You don't need to go online and buy a bunch of things.
100% agree. I think the best toys are open-ended, and the best toy is you as a human being in front of them. And anything that you have at home can become a toy, because a box, a toy, measuring spoons, measuring cups. What do you have in your kitchen? Look in your kitchen drawer. Look in your bathroom.
That's the best. Yeah, that's a spoon, and the music with it is the best.
Anything that allows exploration and experiencing, that's a toy. Anything that allows for them to engage, to figure something out, how does this work, is a toy. Play is how they make sense of their world. So you don't need to buy anything. And my favorite place to buy anything is a Dollar Tree and a Walmart, which you can get for pennies. But I don't need it, because in my kitchen is a room full of toy things. And, simple things like you mentioned, the peekaboo. Mirrors are fun. I know you have mirrors at home. You can have so much fun in front of a mirror. anything. Socks, you have socks at home? That could be a socks puppet. Like, it's very simple. But I do want to share this resource. This book is called The Art of Sync Child. And if anybody listening has any child in their home or in their classroom, or if you're a grandparent or a parent or aunt and uncle, if you know a child who is just a little out of
like this.
If you're little out of, if there's a child that is little out of sync, this is a Bible that you need in your home. And this is a good resource. I do have a couple of links that I can share. I don't know if I can share them in the chat, or Mary, if I send them to you later on and I can add them.
Actually, you can log on afterwards, come into the group and just add them to the
because I definitely want to share some resources, in case somebody's listening and they're wondering. So if you're listening and if this has made you pause and made you wonder about a child in your life, I think that's a good start. Follow your instincts. If somewhere something is telling you something is off, there probably is something to it. And don't be afraid of the labels, because it's not a label. It's giving them the resources they need to succeed. And the younger you start, the better it is. So some of these things, they may be outgrown by the time they're 3. So give it to them in infancy and in toddler. And this example that I was saying with the very stiff muscles, if this little boy could get the flexibility in the muscles, he's not going to be rigid forever.
Right.
Some of it is just needing the right help at the earlier ages. So earlier is better, especially in our world of early childhood. Earlier is better.
And the parents make a big difference. What they do now makes a big difference. You have any examples of how you've seen that? It makes a difference. So parents would understand that. If I do this, what's the value?
Yeah, I think, parents are the best advocates for children. You know your children best. And sometimes you're coming from a fearful place that there's a label attached and maybe there's more problems ahead. But if I can just slow down and watch and observe and respond and be present for my child, you will learn so much more about them. Even when, I don't know if you do massages over here, but in India, when children are little, massage is a very common thing. And I've done it with my grandchildren. It's a very common thing where you take some oil and you rub it and you relax the muscles and you relax the nerves. It's a very soothing thing to do. So if you have, babies till maybe 3 or 4 years old, and you have some time, it'll slow you down, it'll calm you, and it'll relax the baby. Massaging is the best way because it really soothes the nerves, I would definitely do that. If you're a parent, start massaging your children, start carving out time. If you're working from home, carve out 30 minutes. So nobody can be available 24/7 for their children. Agreed. But can you be, it's quality over quantity, right? So can you be fully present for 30 minutes? Do you have 30 minutes in your day where you could be fully present and just soak in this baby and be present to see the baby? Like, those are simple things. Breathing, I'm going to always say breathing. Breathe with your children. Breathe with your children. Just take a deep breath. I have this guy that sits on my desk, and I was doing this with my grandchildren.
Oh, yeah, I love those.
Yeah, I was doing this with my grandchildren yesterday, and they were just loving it. So one is 3 and one is 18 months, and here we were just going, and they were both doing it.
Yeah.
It was just play. It was just play.
So much value in that, in the simple things. Just don't overthink. Don't try to buy all the new stuff that's out there. It's the biggest thing that is going to make the difference is you. And I've said this before, and it's worth repeating. 15 minutes of undivided attention reduces oppositional behavior by 50%. All the child needs is 15 minutes. If you can take, right? If you could take 15 minutes to stop what you're doing, to take a friend's phone call to hear about her new haircut, you sure as heck can give your child that 15 minutes to just pay attention.
To just be.
Preeti, do you have anything you'd like to say before we close up here?
Well, all I can say is that, again, I also learned a couple of new things, which I'm sure what Prerna mentioned, it's going to help a lot of parents to, if not now, in case if they, see anything, they can always go back, evaluate, take professionals' help. But the crux of the entire discussion is that the earlier the better, because end of the day, all we want as a parent is the best for our child. We want the child should be absolutely, should lead a joyful life. And for that, I think there is no one else on this planet who can help but a good parent. So I think that is what at least I take it away from this amazing insight into out of sync, as you said. But yes, I'm sure once we recognize it, everybody would be in sync. So I can't thank you enough, Prerna. It was fantastic, lovely, learning about it. You gave a very, very good examples where parents will be able to understand how to identify, how early to do it, and where to go for help. And Marianne, again, thanks a ton, because I always say it, you have a rhyme or a song for every situation on this planet. And thank you so much for keep sharing those with us, because the moment you add music to anything, it's just become more beautiful.
Yes,
so thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for those kind words. But Howard Gardner cites music as the first of the multiple intelligences to awaken in a human, and we are born with that music ability in place. And that's part of what you said about language. It's through the music and the rhythm that the language develops. So one last thing, Prerna, because I thought of this as Preeti said something. Just because a child is out of sync during a certain stage doesn't mean they are out of sync for life.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
We all go in and out of sync at different periods of our life.
This is true, but if there is something more, then get a diagnosis, because it is on a spectrum. This SPD is on a spectrum, meaning it could be very mild and it could be very extreme. And if you can give the help earlier, it maybe just becomes something that they can learn to cope with and they can learn to manage, and it doesn't need to make their life quality any less. So yes, it comes in and out. Yes, all of us have some sensory things at some point in our life, but I think the conversation today is really for, if you're noticing a pattern, if there's something extreme, don't ignore it. Give them the help earlier, the better.
Yes, and thank you, Prerna. Again, thank you, Preeti. What a fantastic talk. I really, really loved it. Hang with us for a minute there, and we will see you all next week when we have another great show coming up. Of course, we always have great shows, because we have great participants.
Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I can't end it. I'm sorry, because the discussion was so amazing. I have to acknowledge. Thank you, Trupti, Pushpa, Sana, Sizu, Ruxana, for logging in, and all the viewers. I'm sorry if I just
I saw Rob was here today too.
Oh, Rob. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Rob. I'm sorry if I missed your name. So I'm sorry. I think my camera just went off. But thank you so much to all the viewers. Thank you, Prerna. Thank you, Mar. See you next week. Take care.
Thank you. What happened? Whoop.